The night you brought your baby home, someone probably asked how the baby was doing. Almost no one asked how your body was doing, even though it had just done something enormous. Pregnancy gets 9 months of attention. Birth gets a single dramatic day. But the recovery afterward, the part that actually reshapes your body and your sense of self, barely gets mentioned at all. So today, let's talk through what that recovery genuinely looks like, piece by piece, and what actually helps along the way. I am Flora, from Thecradlehush. Disclaimer: Thecradlehush shares real newborn care, safe sleep, and postpartum recovery information. Always consult your doctor or midwife for guidance specific to your own recovery. Let's start with something worth correcting right away: the idea that recovery wraps up at your 6-week checkup. That appointment often marks when you're cleared for certain activities again, not when healing is finished. Many aspects of physical and emotional recovery genuinely continue for months, sometimes closer to a year, and knowing that upfront can save you from feeling like something's wrong when you're not fully back to yourself by week 7. Now let's talk through the physical side, starting with bleeding, because this one catches so many new mums off guard. Whether you delivered vaginally or by cesarean, you'll experience postpartum bleeding, called lochia, for several weeks afterward. It starts heavy and bright, gradually easing into lighter spotting over time. This isn't a period. It's your body clearing tissue that supported your pregnancy, and it's completely expected, even if nobody warned you it would last this long. Then there's the after pains. If you've had a baby before, you might notice cramping as your uterus contracts back down to its pre-pregnancy size, sometimes more intensely with each subsequent baby. It can catch you by surprise the second or third time around, simply because it wasn't as noticeable the first. For those who delivered vaginally, healing around the perineal area takes real time, often several weeks, and sitting, walking, or even laughing can feel surprisingly uncomfortable in the early days. For those who had a cesarean, you're recovering from major abdominal surgery, not just childbirth, and that distinction matters. Lifting, twisting, even standing up straight can take weeks to feel normal again. And that's a normal part of healing from surgery, not a sign anything went wrong. If you did have a cesarean, gently caring for your incision matters more than most people realize. Keeping the area clean and dry, watching for increasing redness, warmth, or discharge, and avoiding heavy lifting until your provider clears you, all support proper healing. Any signs of infection deserve a prompt call to your doctor, rather than waiting to see if it resolves on its own. Something that rarely gets talked about at all: your hair. Around 3 to 4 months after birth, many mums notice sudden, sometimes alarming hair shedding. This isn't hair loss in the permanent sense. It's your hair cycle catching up after pregnancy hormones paused normal, shedding for 9 months. It typically resolves on its own within several months, though it can feel unsettling while it's happening. Your body temperature regulation goes through changes too. Night sweats in the days and weeks after birth are common, as your body works to release the extra fluid it retained during pregnancy. Waking up drenched isn't a sign of illness here. It's simply your body recalibrating. Let's talk about the pelvic floor, because this affects far more mums than most conversations acknowledge. The muscles that supported your pregnancy and birth need genuine rehabilitation afterward. And issues like leaking when you sneeze or cough are common, but common doesn't mean permanent or something you should just accept forever. A pelvic floor physiotherapist can make a real difference here, and it's worth asking your doctor for a referral rather than assuming this is simply the new normal. Your abdominal muscles may also feel different, sometimes separated along the midline, a condition called diastasis recti. For many mums, this improves gradually with time and gentle movement, guided by a professional rather than generic advice, since every recovery timeline looks different. Breast changes are their own chapter entirely, whether or not you're breastfeeding. Engorgement, tenderness, and adjustment to a completely new sensation are all part of this. And if you're not breastfeeding, your body still needs time to signal that milk production should wind down, which can take longer than people expect. Fatigue deserves its own mention too, separate from just being tired. This is a deeper kind of exhaustion, the combination of healing tissue, disrupted sleep, and the constant demands of caring for a newborn, all happening at once. It affects concentration, patience, and even physical coordination, and it's worth naming clearly so you don't mistake it for something being wrong with you personally, rather than a genuinely demanding season. Now, beyond the physical, let's talk about something equally real, the mental and emotional side of recovery. In the days after birth, many mums experience what's often called the baby blues, waves of tearfulness, mood swings, and overwhelm that typically peak around day 4 or 5 and ease within a couple of weeks. This is common, and it's driven largely by the dramatic hormone shift happening right after birth. Here's where I want to be especially clear, because this distinction genuinely matters for your safety. If those low feelings don't ease after a couple of weeks, or if you're experiencing persistent sadness, a hopelessness, difficulty bonding, intrusive frightening thoughts, or feelings that scare you, that's beyond the baby blues. That could be postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety, and it deserves real, prompt support from a doctor or midwife. This is common, it's treatable, and reaching out is a sign of strength, not failure. Please don't wait it out alone if this describes what you're feeling. Something else worth naming honestly. Identity. So much of who you were before, your interests, your body, your sense of independence, can feel temporarily buried under the sheer demands of a newborn. You might find yourself missing conversations that weren't about feeding schedules, missing your old sense of time, or simply missing feeling like yourself in your own skin. Feeling like you've lost touch with who you were doesn't mean you're ungrateful for your baby. It simply means you're human, adjusting to one of the biggest transitions a person can go through. Relationships with your own body can shift too, in ways that go beyond how it looks. Learning to trust it again after birth, especially if your birth didn't go the way you expected, is its own quiet process, and it deserves patience rather than pressure. Your skin tells its own story too. Stretch marks, changes in texture, a belly that looks and feels different than before. These marks aren't flaws to fix. They're evidence of what your body just accomplished. Though it's completely normal to need time before you feel neutral, let alone kind, toward these changes. Partners have a real role in this recovery season too. Even though the physical healing itself is yours alone, simple things make a genuine difference. Learning what lochia and after pains actually are, so they're not alarmed by normal healing. Taking on nighttime duties so you can rest, and gently checking in on your mood, not just your physical symptoms. Recovery goes more smoothly when it isn't something you're navigating in isolation. If any part of this has felt familiar, I genuinely love to hear about your own recovery experience in the comments below. And please subscribe if you'd like more honest conversations like this one. It helps other new mums find these videos too. Let's move into what genuinely helps during this stretch, because there are real, practical things that make a difference. Sleep deprivation itself deserves acknowledgement as a genuine physical stressor, not just an inconvenience. Chronic lack of sleep affects your immune system, your pain tolerance, and your emotional regulation, all of which directly shape how your recovery feels day to day. This isn't about needing to be tougher. It's biology, and it's worth extending yourself real compassion around it. Rest matters more than productivity right now, even though that's hard to accept in a culture that prizes doing over healing. Sleeping when you can, even in short stretches, genuinely supports physical recovery, not just your mood. Nutrition and hydration support healing in a real, physiological way, particularly if you're breastfeeding, since your body is doing extra work. This isn't about restriction or tracking anything, simply about giving your body consistent fuel while it repairs itself. Accepting help, real, practical help, changes recovery outcomes more than most people realize. Whether that's a partner taking a night shift, a family member handling meals, or a friend holding the baby so you can shower uninterrupted. Letting people help isn't weakness. It's part of healing well. Movement. When you're cleared for it by your doctor, and gentle rather than intense, can support both physical and mental recovery. But the timeline for this varies enormously depending on your birth, so this is genuinely a conversation to have with your own provider rather than a generic timeline to follow. Pelvic floor exercises, ideally guided by a professional rather than generic advice, can meaningfully support long-term recovery, and it's worth asking about this at your postpartum checkup, rather than waiting to be offered the information. A postpartum doula, where available, can also make a meaningful difference, offering practical support around feeding, like household help, and simply another experienced presence in those early weeks. This kind of support isn't only for mums without family nearby. Plenty of mums with wonderful support systems still find value in someone whose specific role is helping you heal. Connection with other mums going through the same season, whether that's a local group, an online community, or simply one honest friend, can ease the isolation that recovery often brings. You don't have to carry the harder parts silently, and hearing that someone else felt the same way can be genuinely relieving. Talking to a therapist, even briefly, isn't just for when things feel like a crisis. Many mums find real value in a few sessions during this transition simply to process. Some mums find writing things down, even briefly, helps make sense of a season that otherwise blurs together. You don't need a beautiful journal or a daily habit. Even a few scattered lines on your hardest days can help you look back later and see how far you've actually come. It also helps to know recovery isn't a straight line. You might feel strong for several days and then have a harder one out of nowhere, and that's not a step backward. It's simply how healing tends to work, physically and emotionally both. Expecting steady, linear progress can make normal dips feel like failure when they're really just part of the process. Your postpartum checkup itself deserves more than a quick 5-minute conversation. Come with a list of what you're actually experiencing, physically and emotionally, even things that feel embarrassing to bring up, since your provider has heard it all before, and your honest answers help them support you properly. And perhaps most importantly, giving yourself permission to heal at your own pace, without comparing your recovery to anyone else's timeline, matters more than almost anything else on this list. Every birth, every body, and every recovery looks different, and that's not something to apologize for. Comparison is one of the sneakiest ways this season gets harder than it needs to be. Seeing other mums who look effortlessly put together within weeks of birth rarely tells the full story. Everyone's genetics, birth experience, support system, and circumstances differ enormously, and none of that is a fair measuring stick for your own healing. One last thing worth saying clearly: your worth right now isn't measured by how quickly your body bounces back, or how put together you appear to anyone outside your home. It's measured by the fact that you grew a person, delivered them, and are now healing from something enormous, all while caring for someone entirely new. That's not a small thing, even on the days it feels invisible. If the harder nights during this recovery season feel heavy, we create calming lullabies specifically for moments like these, for your baby, and honestly, for the quiet moments you need too. You'll find the link in the description if you'd like to try them. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this helped you feel even a little less alone in your recovery, please like this video and subscribe, so other mums going through the same thing can find their way here too. Take care of yourself. You're doing better than you know.